everyone, welcome to another edition of the Loudwire Podcast. I know this voice doesn't sound familiar to you. It's usually Graham's, but it's not. I'm Joe, as you know. Graham is recording Wikipedia Fact or Fiction for all you truth fiends out there, and we're going to be talking about Korn today. So Graham's with Head right now, but sitting in front of me is Munky, one of the original Korn members, main songwriter. Had to shoulder it all when he was on his own. Now Head's back in the band, fully entrenched. They've got the Serenity of Suffering coming out. We're going to get to the nitty gritty on that one for you guys. And today's rocker versus writer topic, very simple. What makes a band metal? It seems obvious. It's the question nobody can seem to answer. And Jonathan Davis even said in 2012, Korn has never been a metal band. So we're going to find out what that's all about. Try to define the music that we love so much. Get ready, turn it up. It's time to sit down and shout. So I'm here with Munky from Korn.
Yes, sir.
All right, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm
Glad
good.
to hear.
Just rolling around the city, doing press for the new record, and played last night. It was crazy.
Yeah, and then you got another gig coming up and winding down the tour.
Yeah, we have
Rob
a few more shows left. Rob Zombie, In This Moment. It's been crazy. I was telling Rob's wife the other night, I was like, man, this has been probably one of the best tours of our career.
It seems like everybody's having fun doing the co-headlining thing these days.
Yeah.
Like touring festivals not happening as much anymore. You know, you got Slipknot doing a co-headliner. You guys are doing a co-headliner. It
just makes sense these days. You know, the business changes it has always been changing so rapidly that you kind of got to go where it is.
Adapt and move on.
Yep, just adapt.
And I mean, 35 million records sold. You guys have
Is that how many we've sold?
That's what
something like that.
That's what the internet said. So
the Wikipedia head's probably answering that question.
Yeah,
now.
We'll get that cleared up. So you get the new album, The Serenity of Suffering, coming out, and it's interesting because you guys have been saying the whole time leading up to the release, it's going to be a heavy one. Going back a little bit to the earlier sound, kind of like the first 4 albums. And one thing I noticed when I was listening to it is it's darkly melodic, and there's some moments that kind of sound uplifting, like a light in the darkness. Now, kind of trying to channel that older sound, but still writing from the heart. Obviously, you guys are in a different mental space than you were in the earlier days. So do you think that's why some of those more kind of partially uplifting moments creep into the music?
I think it's definitely a reflection of how we write songs now, as opposed to the time when we didn't know. We just like, let's do this part. Now let's play this part. Now there's a sense of actual songwriting skill that goes behind what we do, and
kind of playing to each other's strengths.
Yeah,
along the way.
and then let's kind of like. We have our canvas. Let's paint where we want things to shine, and what sort of dark areas of the song do we want to bring? On a creative side of making a record, it's always we wanted to have peaks and valleys. We wanted to kind of
peaks and valleys, light and shade.
Yeah, and just kind of look at it as what it would be visually. As to a listener, well, what do you want them to kind of envision?
Yeah, a little cinematic.
Yes, and that's kind of how we looked at this whole album. And we want the heavy moments to be really heavy, but in contrast, having those more major like chord progressions or
definitely
lighter moments kind of, stand on their own, I guess.
Yeah, you can only know darkness if you have light. You can only know light if you have darkness. So good.
And that's a lifetime of experience right there.
A little bit of what Ryan James Dio is always talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, did performing your debut album in full on tour kind of get you back a little bit in the mindsets for writing this one?
I think so. Our producer came out, Nick Raskulinix. He came out with us on the road, and this was all. Head and I started writing riffs for the record in June, and that was last year. And originally we started writing those on 8-string guitars.
Oh wow!
I know. So it was like we were already trying to kind of like push ourselves creatively and get us into a place where we felt like we were making a jump, you know. We did like 3 songs. We did, demoed 3 songs completely before we let anybody hear them. And it was, I think I'm getting off subject, but anyways, we did them.
Podcast ramble.
Yeah, so we did them and kind of played them for the producer, Nick Raskulinix, who came out with us on the road during all this touring. It was kind of a mishmash of, well, we're going to tour, we're going to make a record, and we're going to keep touring, and then when we get home from touring, we're going to make a record. And it was like, we're going from LA to Nashville to Bakersfield to... It was, man, all over the place. So it was we definitely needed Nick, our producer's help in focusing our energy. And I think with him coming out on the road on that 20th anniversary tour, he was able to kind of harness that and see what the crowd reacts to, and get
a better sense for where you were going with everything.
Yeah, and I think that helped kind of like, man, he sat us down in the beginning of this thing and basically told us, like, as a fan, as a fan of your band for many years, he's like, what happened to the heavy guitarist? What happened to the back and forth thing with you and Head? This is a meeting that Head and I had with him, and he's like, where's the angry screaming vocals over the heavy riffs? Where's Fieldy's bass? Like, where's his bass? Like, you can't even hear his bass anymore. Like, that slapping thing that so many people love, including me.
So kind of the hallmarks that he identified as being
and he's
Korn
like,
sounds.
as a fan, he kind of put his neck out there, like, in the sense that, like, we may not like what we were about to hear, but he was like willing to take that chance and be honest with us. And some of it was difficult to hear, but he was right. I mean, in making records, you want to keep things creative, you want to keep things fresh, you want to keep going and evolving and making things, just feel like you're making progress along your career, especially when it spans over 20 years. I think that you got to kind of like, where am I headed with this? And we did like you said, the Path of Totality. We kind of took a left turn, just to kind of shake it up and experiment and try work with some different people and upcoming producer DJ guys, and that was fun. And I learned a lot from that, actually. I learned a lot as far as how to incorporate electronics into our genre of music the right way.
And have that crossover mentality.
Yeah, and have that just a breath of fresh air, of creative new, a different mindset working with like Skrillex and stuff. A lot of people were turned off by it, but for us, creatively, it was a big leap forward into something that was new. And Jonathan was super inspired by it. And I mean, when you've been around for nearly 20 years, by the time you start that album, like, you've earned the ability to kind of go off a little bit and try something new. And if the fans don't like it, like, hey, that's fine. There's going to be more Korn albums. But after a certain status, you kind of earn that ability to be able to do that. And not a lot of bands have that leverage and that room to play with their fans like that. I know. Our fans are super forgiving. So even if they didn't like it, it's like, okay, I don't like this album, but I have 10 other albums that I love.
And there's going to be more coming later, too.
And this one that we did sort of was... We played on, Nick Raskulinix, our producer, was able to point out those things and lay them out in a way that, look, you can still do, the weird guitar noises. We could still do the heavy riffs intermixed with this electronic sound that's not overpowering, that's not dominating the whole track. And that you guys can actually use this to your advantage as to what you already do. And if you listen to a lot of early hip-hop, I mean, we were just mimicking a lot of the Cypress Hill and NWA.
That's nothing out of your realm to begin with.
When you think about it, industrial stuff, and, we're trying to use some of those elements, even on tracks like Helmet in the Bush, where there's just drum machine. That's basically a drum machine song that you're hearing. I don't know. It's just kind of using all of our strengths, and he was able to kind of put it in a perspective where it's like everybody can have what they want. The fans can have what they want. You can have a record that you're all proud of. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard work. And it was.
No, on the Serenity of Suffering, would you say, I mean, a producer is always a bit of a silent member of a band for each album, but would you say he was a little bit more involved than producers in the past, kind of leading you in that direction and, hey, where's this? Where's this?
I think he definitely was a louder voice than we have had. Mm-hmm. And he definitely, when there was certain things when he wanted to incorporate or not incorporate certain elements, mm-hmm. he put his foot down. You know, it was like, this has to happen, or we can't have that. You know, it's like, man, you know. But I think really he was a key element in bringing out those heavy riffs and getting a really strong, aggressive album overall.
Definitely.
I think there's a lot of melodies. There's a lot of dark melodies in it. But he was actually really good at mediating between getting Jonathan in front of the microphone to like all these songs that we wrote, and kind of going through and kind of just, I don't know, spelling out the way that he thinks the album should sound, or his vision of the album. Mm-hmm. Because at first it was difficult when Nick and Jonathan heard some of the demos that Brian and I had done on 8-string guitars. It was, they were like, I don't know. It was kind of a nice way of saying, nah, they didn't like it. You know, it was like, man, and we were pumped because it was just so fresh for, you know, anything that you play on an 8-string guitar sounds awesome.
Especially when you're by yourself. You don't have the bass to fill out everything.
Yeah, and it's just like, Head and I are just in unison playing these 8-string guitars. It was, to me, it was sick. And still, you know, maybe we'll do something like that, a track or two in the future. But when they heard it, they're just like, I don't know, it doesn't sound like Korn. I know this is, they're like, I know this is you and Head, and it sounds like,
and these are Korn riffs.
These are Korn riffs, but it just doesn't sound like Korn. And then Jonathan just couldn't imagine himself singing over it. So it was like, okay, let's redo the demos on 7-string guitars to our typical tuning, and see if it sparks any
jives.
Yeah, and that helped a lot, and I think that started to get Jonathan interested in stepping up to the microphone and singing on the songs.
Especially with him, you know, it's got to be a very convincing performance, the way with his vocal style, with everything. So it's like, if he's not ready, you really need to tap into something in his mind that just flicks that switch, and then, you know, you get what we all know him to be.
Yeah, because it as soon as you're right, as soon as that switch goes off, it's like it just pours out of him, mm-hmm. you know, and then whatever that, and you never know what it could be. It could be the electronic element. It could be a riff. It could be just a chorus that he feels, and then once he gets into it, it's no holding him back. That's for sure. Mm.
Let's get to some rocker versus writer here. We were talking about the Path of Totality.
Yeah.
And one interesting thing around that album cycle was that Jonathan said Korn has never been a metal band. So our topic today is going to be the very simple topic: what makes a band metal? So what, in your eyes, defines a metal band, or what stylistic trappings or certain things like this keep a band from actually being defined as metal?
I don't know, but the comment, I know what he means by Korn has never been a metal band, in the sense that we're not trying to follow suit with certain things,
like just heavy metal.
Like, we're just gonna play distortion, you know, we're just you gotta just play, you know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we only listen to Slayer and Cannibal Corpse.
Because we listen to everything. We listen to,
definitely.
And you can hear it in our songs.
Yeah, because you've got all the bass parts are obviously so hip-hop inspired.
Totally.
And then it seems like with Korn, every individual member has such a wide range of influences that now when they bring that to the table, sure, metal's a commonality,
right,
but it's all the other factors surrounding that keep it from being, Korn is not just a metal band.
Right.
So,
and I think just us trying to be individual, and then as individuals bringing those different characteristics to the forefront of our songwriting. I mean, I think what defines a metal band is always trying to do something new that nobody's doing. You always feel like, I think a lot of fans that listen to metal are always the outcasts or in society. We always kind of like walking around the street with the, long black hair, dressed in black, and those, we're just, that's the way we express ourselves. And I think that's, if you're being true to your expression in your art, whatever it is, I think that's metal. That's metal to me. It's just
metal,
being
the rock and roll, rebellious spirit, counterculture.
Totally, just being completely open with who you are and expressing that through whether it's music or art or And
it's very interesting because Korn have always been associated with the nu metal tag. Even attributed to starting the entire genre. And there's so many fans that will argue that nu metal is not even considered metal, even though the word metal is in the genre tag. You've got bands like System of a Down, and then it branched out to bands like Crazy Town.
Whoa.
And yeah, I don't get that one.
I don't get that one either.
But it seems like it applied to really just any band that took influences from rap and hip-hop and combined them with heavy, down-tuned, distorted rhythms. And that seems like kind of an unfair critique because it's so general and blanketed. So what's a band for you that many would consider metal that you don't consider to be a metal band? Other than maybe Korn.
What band what?
What band do you consider to not be metal that many people would consider to be a metal band, if any?
Faith No More.
Ooh.
I think they don't try to be metal. Their riffs are heavy.
They don't try to be anything, and they wind up being everything.
They're awesome. I love that band. They've been a huge inspiration through many years, and to see them come back and make another record has been, just watch them do the whole cycle again, has been pretty cool to watch and see. And
you don't get much weirder than Mike Patton.
Man, he's one of my heroes for sure. That guy's just awesome. He's everywhere and just doing so many things all the time, so many projects. Mr. Bungle's one of my all-time favorite bands. That's another band that's heavy and not. Mr. Bungle is a perfect example of someone that
you could be heavy without being metal.
I know. They're super dark, and even the common thing I think is just like that dark, sarcastic kind of dark humor that they have,
sense
like
of humor.
It's pretty metal.
Because another thing, Corey Taylor, who you obviously know pretty well, he's said that Slipknot is its own genre. And when we had Zach Wilden on the podcast, we were talking about Black Sabbath and the origins of heavy metal, and we both actually agreed that Judas Priest was the first metal band, and that Sabbath is really its own genre. At least the first 6-8 albums with Ozzy. After that, a little more traditional metal. But I think the same could be applied to Korn, where these bands are doing something that is just so completely different than what anybody else is doing. And again, it goes back to bringing in so many different outside influences to the table that it's, we're not a metal band, we're not a rock band, we're Korn, we're Slipknot, we're Black Sabbath.
Right, you're just taking influences that, you grew up as a kid, or movies that you've watched, and maybe moments in your childhood that weren't so good or good, and you're just combining those things into however it is you express it on your instrument. And it's a chemistry between that and the other members, and then you got what's an individual sounding unique band.
Yeah, its own entity.
You don't even have to try to sound like another band, because you're gonna be, if you just use that formula, you're gonna have a unique sounding band no matter what.
Definitely.
I think it's when bands start to kind of follow another band or do something that another band's doing too much, instead of letting that influence influenced them in such a strong way that it becomes they've sort of morphed into something they're not. You know?
Yeah. Like I was watching something with Alex Skolnick breaking down a guitar
Oh, I love
solo,
that guy.
and he's amazing.
He's such a cool dude too.
We get to we actually presented this show with Metal Allegiance where they played all of Deep Purple's Made in Japan, and I got to watch Alex Skolnick play Richie Blackmore music 3 feet in front of my face.
Holy crap!
Yeah, but I was watching him deconstruct one of his solos, and he was saying, you know, there's this little lick, like this little 3-note part, and he's comparing it to some like classic rock greats, and you know, this is what they did, and he's like, so this is this part, this is this part, this is this part.
Wow!
So you take those 3 individual parts, put it into your own style in a solo, and that's bringing in the influences without really imitating too much.
Right. That's pretty dope. That guy's an amazing guitar player, man.
He's phenomenal.
He's from here, huh?
He's
from Brooklyn?
Yeah, he lives in Brooklyn.
That's right.
So yeah, it's nice. We had him in a couple times. It's like,
I saw him
feels like home.
I saw him maybe it was a couple years ago already, but we did a festival together about a year ago, and him and like Jeff Loomis are watching from the side of the stage, Korn.
Oh wow!
I'm just like, I'm super nervous, you know. Like, my God. And then what do I got to nervous about? I just, you know, we're just rocking bar chords, but it's the intensity. I think that.
Yeah, it's
the passion that we play with when you see Korn live. I think we've always been such a live and paid so much attention to our live show, because you can go and record music that's super intricate, but we always wanted to translate live. I remember seeing bands like Rage Against the Machine back in the day, seeing the energy, boom, the crowd jumping, and just
or the riot that they started.
I don't know nothing about that.
Yeah, they started the riot at DNC a few. Right around the turn of the millennium. So yeah, you see that energy, but I mean, it's more than just playing barred chords, because you have to be lockstep with that kind of rhythmic music.
You got to be tight.
So, last bit about the rocker versus writer thing with what makes a band metal. We discussed the counterculture, and really, to me, it just seems like it's an instinctive thing. It's either metal or it's not. Like, there's got to have the integrity behind it, the heart. You got to have culture, anti-mentality. You got to be you got to have your chops down. You got to have your band tight. You got to have every time you hit a drum or a cymbal, you have to mean it. I really think that you have to mean it. You have to bring that fire with every. Yeah, if you're not trying to break your sticks, you're not playing hard enough.
I mean, there's a thin line there, because, again, you have to think about the band being tight.
Yeah, you don't want to go through.
But still, like you're hitting the guitar string so hard that it's going out of tune. So there's a fine line between breaking all your shit and still maintaining what is to be a song. Yeah,
So that's rocker versus writer, everybody. And then let's go a little bit more back to just some Korn stuff.
Okay.
You guys were huge on MTV.
It's crazy.
Coming up in the early days.
It's crazy to see now they don't even play videos. Well, they do a little bit.
Yeah, there's the MTV Classic that's bringing it back. But one really thing that's pretty funny that happened recently, I don't know if you saw this, was that the VMAs announced the nominees for Best Rock Video.
I didn't see it.
The whole ceremony happened, never announced the winner.
What?
Never announced. It was like a day or two before they actually announced who the winner of the category was.
Really?
Yeah.
So who won?
I forgot who it was. I don't have
that good, huh?
Yeah, it was amazing. But for a station that, gave Korn and all these bands so much coming up, and then the 80s, all the glam and even the other metal going up through there, is it kind of frustrating to see these huge institutions just continuously snub rock and roll and metal and bands like Korn? I mean, the Grammys, they're all over the place with what they do with rock and metal, nominating live songs that were recorded 35 years ago, stuff like that. And then now you got MTV, who gave all this stuff a voice, you guys a voice, and they forgot to even announce who won the category. Is that frustrating?
It is frustrating, and it's kind of like, what are you gonna do? All you got to do is make the connection between you and the fans, and you make that. And the media will pay attention eventually. You know, I think that's
kind of if you scream loud enough.
It doesn't even matter. You don't have to scream directly at them. It's just like we're just focused in carving our niche still. We're not worried about getting anybody's attention except for our fans. We want our fans to love this band as much as we love and appreciate them for all their loyalty. And especially on this record, on this new record, we wanted to give them the heavy riffs and, pay attention to what Nick was saying as a fan, as an outsider.
Yeah, because he was speaking for them.
He was speaking for them. He's like, man, I want to give the fans what they want. He said that to me like 3 or 4 times. And I think if you're just carving your niche and doing what's great and what you know is true to your heart, the cameras will turn to you. And if they don't, well, then they're lost. That they're not going to shine light on something that deserves to be shined on. And when we're out on tour right now with Rob Zombie, I mean, we're selling 15,000 tickets a night. It's crazy. And then you don't see any rock on TV. You don't see any sort of
existing on its own.
It's crazy, but
whether you get
it's alive.
Or not.
It's really alive, and I think it's kind of cool because it's like almost an underground scene again. It
does feel like that. I mean, even like you said, you're selling 15,000 tickets a night, and there's all these bands selling, like Slipknot are just
crazy. They're killing
huge.
it. They're killing it.
And I mean, there is a little bit of the alternative rock radio play and stuff like that, of course, but still, most of this, like you said, is still very underground. And to see something happening on such a big a scale, like you've got these huge European festivals, Rock in Rio, 250, 300,000 people.
It's crazy how and it's it's crazy because it's only in the U.S. It's only in the U.S. that whenever we go to Europe, whenever we go to South America, whenever we go to anywhere else, it's like mega stardom.
Yeah, it's more
crazy.
Than
you
ever.
Can't even walk down the street. Like there's fans camped outside of the hotel. It's like the friggin' Beatles.
Like Beatlemania, yeah.
It's crazy. But in America, they just have a different... everybody follows the trends and everything in America, and that's the way it is. Listen, and there's nothing wrong with us being trendsetters as Americans. That's what we do. We create stuff, and the world follows a lot of those trends. So the American media seems to follow those trends wherever they might go. And they do it for whatever, a lot of corporate commercial money, wherever it might be, and it's that's the monster. It is whatever, you got to feed the monster, for lack of a better term. But I really believe that the pendulum swings. I think that rock...
It's definitely on the upswing.
It's definitely on an upswing, and you see like our show. We the tickets that we sell every night, and other bands and different commercials. I see car commercials using old rock songs now again, and I even see DJs that are creating music that they're hiring musicians so they can do live shows, which is cool. Like I never imagined that would happen. But they're getting kind of just working in the box, and they're actually hiring a drummer. They're hiring a guitar player. These DJs,
Interesting.
And they want to put together a live band based on.
They want some realness.
They want some realness and organic feel to their shows, and
that's a good sign.
It is a good sign, and so I'm just it's frustrating to.
It seems like a fight that shouldn't need to be fought in 2016.
It's again, I think it's just they're gonna. Hip hop is such a big element in the world of music too, and even country music is getting like more love than rock.
Oh, definitely. Because country's kind of crossed over a little bit of country pop.
The country. I see a lot of the country stars doing a lot of stuff we did in the '90s.
Like what?
Just like stage shows and living in excess.
The whole
extravagant,
kind of
like
stereotypical
100 trucks and buses, and I'm like, this is just kind of crazy. We did that in the '90s, It's like,
Yeah, the stereotypical rock star
Yeah, and it's just like even some of the clothes they're wearing, I'm like, damn.
Metal's a fashion statement now.
Hey, but I think it's just it's the nature of the way the ups and downs of the industry.
Mm-hmm,
and
definitely.
I definitely think rock music is on an upswing, and that you're going to be seeing a lot more of it. But it's kind of cool because you're listening to a genre of music that's kind of underground now.
Yeah.
I always thought that when my favorite underground band was underground, that it was cool. When it became successful and the media was all over it, it was when I was like, this is
not cool anymore. But
Exactly.
looks like we're out of time here. But
yeah, Monkey, we gotta go, bro.
There's
That's head. He's taking me out here. I gotta get out of here.
We gotta go.
All right. Got pizza, got meatballs, everything's ready for the road. I want to thank you guys so much for coming in here, giving us some of your time.
Right on.
Talking about metal. New Korn album, The Serenity of Suffering. It's heavy. Pick it up.
I'm big.
Hopefully we've got a few South Park fans out there.
Of course we do. The Korn was on South Park.
Oh, yeah.
Korn, I think, debuted Falling Away From Me on South Park. I think it actually debuted on South Park. So
Oh, my God.
yeah, it was pretty cool. But yeah, yep, I had an awesome time with Head over there. How was the podcast? I don't know what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, you guys popped in at the end there when we were just
Yeah.
talking about metal being fashion statements and country music and
Oh,
yeah.
what about country music?
Well, we're talking about how the VMAs forgot to announce the winner of the best rock video category, and then just how frustrating it is that metal doesn't really have a voice in the mainstream. Even though, I mean, it's big, but it's not mainstream, but it's in that weird kind of state. But Monkey was actually saying how he noticed a lot of country stars these days are acting like they did in the 90s, just like huge rock star egos, these like crazy amounts of equipment, 18-wheelers, all these elaborate stage shows. So, I mean, I guess that's cool.
You know what's funny? It's Ice-T actually said that exact same thing to me once. He said that country music and punk and hip hop have a lot of things in common. He was like, country, they've got like the black hat cowboys, where in hip hop we've got like the rhinestone cowboys, and then they've got their pickup trucks. We've got our lowriders. You know, it's like they've got
Variations on a theme.
Yeah, he's like, they've got their Budweiser, we've got, Cavassier or whatever. I probably mispronounced it. But yeah, Ice-T said that exact same thing to me. So, because I guess Korn is another band that sort of skirt the line between heavy culture and urban culture.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they could probably be a little bit of a gateway band for some hip-hop and rap fans.
Yeah, not so much country, but...
No,
hey.
though Jonathan Davis is doing that country album.
Oh.
That whole tribute to the Bakersfield sound, the old country, not country
okay,
pop,
good.
Pop with a southern accent.
Good. So thanks everyone for listening to another episode of the Loudwire Podcast. Remember, Korn's new record, The Serenity of Suffering, is available October 21st. Go out and get it. As for us, visit loudwire.com. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, all that great stuff.
YouTube.
On YouTube, of course, if you're not listening to this on YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Hit that button. Give us a thumbs up, a nice comment. If you're listening on iTunes, subscribe so you get the Loudwire Podcast every time we put out a new episode. Follow me, Gramwire, on Twitter. I swear I'm a good follow. I really am. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Play Dukin'.